Hello and welcome, beautiful, vibrant souls, to today's video, which is all about the major astrological transits for the year ahead for 2024. Thank you for your patience, both with the release of content lately as well as with personal readings. I have been battling some health problems and it's really just taken a lot out of me. So I really, really appreciate your patience and your support of my work, both on this channel and my shop as well. So thank you all. It means so much to me. But I'm really excited that we're getting to do this. We're getting around to it. So yeah, this is going to be, I'm going to be covering the three biggest astrological transits for the year ahead, in my personal opinion, what they're going to mean for us collectively, as well as what signs are going to be kind of the most affected or experiencing the most activity. Imagine there's like a little asterisk there, because yeah, but we'll get to it when we get to that part of the video. So we have a lot of good stuff to get into today. I do have my notes right here, so if you see me glancing down, that's what I'm looking at, because otherwise I would get very much off track. Okay, so I think we're ready to just dive right on in. Big transits for the year that I want to talk about. Number one would be Pluto moving through Aquarius. Now this is a heavy hitter for a lot of reasons. So Pluto, I want to give a timeline first and foremost. Pluto's going to be moving into Aquarius January 20th of this year, 2024. May 2nd, it will go retrograde. It will retrograde back into Capricorn, where October 11th, it will go direct, and then it will start moving back into Aquarius. It will re-enter Aquarius November 19th. So both January 20th and November 19th are potent time to set intentions when it comes to the themes we're about to talk about. January 20th in particular, because this is also the time where the sun moves into Aquarius, right? So not only can that have far-reaching impacts for the next year, but also because Pluto will be in Aquarius until 2044, this will have ripple effects out for the next 20 years. So this is going to be a really, really potent day to be setting your intentions. And one of the things that both the sun and Pluto can kind of speak about, that they have in common, is a relationship to power. So setting intentions on January 20th and then again November 19th for when it comes to your personal power in these areas is going to be a really, really good use of your time. If you like that kind of stuff, of course. You totally don't have to do it if you do not want to. Okay, so let's talk about Pluto moving through Aquarius. So Pluto is a serious, very serious planet. Pluto and Saturn are not effing around. They're not joking. Pluto is a planet that it's because it has such a long transit time. So for example, it is moving out of Capricorn. It's been there since 2008. It has such a long transit time that it essentially is a marker of eras or generational marker. Excuse me. So what we can expect over the next 20 years is that there's really going to be a breakdown of the false self in order to have a rebirth into a greater sense of authenticity. If you take nothing else from this part of the video, the kind of, headline here is that as Pluto moves through Aquarius, the path to personal power is really through your authenticity, as well as your ability, pardon my itchy nose, your ability to be able to connect with soul family, lean on them, and also, be giving to them. And the reason why is because Aquarius traditionally rules the 11th house. And I'm trying to think about the quickest way to saying this. The story of the Wheel of the Zodiac is a journey of development, right? So houses 1 through 10 are us kind of finding ourselves, finding our passions, and then taking that out into the world, right? Pairing up with other people, getting a fresh perspective on how others live their lives and the human experience. We get all the way up to the 10th house. And this is really what we have made for ourselves, what we have built, what we can kind of put our name on, so to speak. And we're kind of like looking around like, okay, yeah, I did that. All right. Like, cool, this is what I accomplished, this is what I made out of all of this. And after that, there's like a sense of wanting to grow, wanting to expand, what's next? And this is where that Aquarian 11th house energy comes in, because it refers to the people and circumstances and situations that help us grow past our current limitations, that help us grow into the next version of ourselves. Excuse me. So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. So that's a really, really powerful thing in and of itself. But because that energy also deals with humanitarian efforts, for me, Aquarius and the 11th house really refers to our soul family and the people with whom we do our spiritual work. So this is going to be an era that's characterized again by finding our personal path to our authenticity. And that's where our power really lies, our power to be our authentic selves, as well as our power to be in some type of collective like that, to be working together, to be lifting one another up, as well as allowing ourselves to be lifted up, right? There's a sense here of dissolving barriers toward that type of community. So that's kind of like one of that's the biggest takeaway here from this particular transit. Now, I will say that everything I'm about to share, it really behooves you to apply it to the area of life that wherever Aquarius is in your chart, whatever house, to apply it to that area of life, right? So for example, if you're a Capricorn rising and you have Aquarius in the second house, you might find that these themes really are going to be playing out heavily in career, in your finances, when it comes to your material possessions, but also when it comes to your sense of security and value and how you value yourself, how you perceive other people value you, etc. You might be going through a lot of shifts. So take that into consideration. I will say I do offer one-on-one astrological guidance sessions. They're Zoom calls. Excuse me. So if you wanted to book and then talk about any of these transits or anything else astrologically related, we go through and we talk about the transits. I answer any questions, as well as apply it to your personal astrology, so we can get a better feel. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We can get a better feel for how the events in questions might play out for you, or how to best kind of harness and utilize and prepare for that energy. So if you're interested, those are on my shop. And if I can remember, I'll link it below. The shop is linked below, but I will link the guidance session below if I can remember. I'm trying. I do my best. So yeah, so those are, keep in mind that that's going to be what's kind of playing out here. Now, something that I want to talk about before we get into a little bit more of what this means is that 2020 through 2023, Saturn was transiting through Aquarius. And so while I'm not saying that the same world events during that time are going to be playing out, some of the themes that came up for us individually and collectively might be themes that are coming up again for us to work with. You know, Saturn is a planet of restrictions, so it kind of forces us to either deal with things we've been avoiding, excuse me, or holds us back, restrains us, or restricts us from things we've been overly invested in, so we can learn our lessons, we can grow, and we can achieve balance at a soul level, right? We're kind of like handling all areas of life. So the things that came up during Saturn's transit through Aquarius, it's kind of like, imagine Saturn pointed it out and brought it to our attention, and now we'll be working with those themes more heavily over the next 20 years as Pluto's moving through Aquarius. I have a stray hair and it's driving me nuts. So keep that in mind. Themes during that time might be coming up again. You're like, interesting. So that's going to be that. Collectively, what can we expect? Expect a reordering of power structures over the next 20 years. And this reordering process might be to initially fight, but then favor, authenticity, eccentricity, thinking outside the box, new age concepts, communal living, essentially like a power to the people type energy, as well as like relying more heavily on like digital spaces. We'll get into that in a moment. But these are the kind of things we can expect. Now, Pluto, like I said, is not always an easy energy. It is death and rebirth, right? It's stripping away the ego to get to the soul. But as a result, it can also kind of force us to deal with traumas. It can also, like, I wouldn't say it traumatizes us, but it can be like you're really getting into the dark, into the nitty gritty, right? Whatever's in there, it needs to come up. So it can be brought into the light. It can be healed. It can be stripped away. And you can be that much closer to your higher self, to your soul self. And the other astrology that's taking place at this time kind of supports that. So right now, Saturn is moving through Pisces. And I did a video about this because it transited into Pisces March of 2023. I did a video about this, so I'll just like very, very briefly kind of recap. But it will be there until 2026, and then it will be moving into Aries after that for the next 3 years after that, right? So 2026 through 2029. And kind of some of what this is talking about is this is a push to find our higher self, right? To find our higher spiritual calling, to get aligned with our purpose, excuse me, to be of service. Both Aquarian energy and Piscean energy are very much like of service, but in different ways. So it's a push to find that. It's a push to find our, our collective. It's a push to find the people that we will be doing our spiritual work with. Excuse me. And so, these are kind of already themes that we're already working with, and again, that are setting the tone. Now, Saturn then transiting through Aries after that is going to be a time where we're really pushed to assert ourselves, to stand up for ourselves. Aries is ruled by Mars. That's the warrior energy. And Pisces is an energy that can also deal with power structure. So what we're seeing from Saturn over the next, 6 years or so, is really going to be, this calling to connect with our empathy, connect with our higher self, and to call out, expose, and condemn unjust uses of power. And I think we're already kind of seeing that at a world level in multiple different spheres. There's a lot of activity in that area, right? Secrets coming to light, again, calling out unjust power structures that are not in alignment with a higher calling, right? With a higher vibrational energy. And then as it will move into Aries, it's going to be a push to fight some of those power structures, or to take back our own personal power and kind of, weaken overarching power structures that are unjust, right? That are unjustly using power. So these themes are really, think about, these are playing out at the beginning, right? At the beginning of setting the tone for it, and at the beginning of Pluto's transit through Aquarius, and where Pluto deals with power, but can deal with the dark side of power, or having to confront the dark side of power. Don't be surprised if the first half of Pluto's transit through Aquarius is a lot about breaking that down, the nitty gritty, both collectively and at an individual level, right? So that's going to be a thing. Expect as well that this is going to be a time of breaking down perceived stigma around your authentic self. One of the things, like I was saying, that Aquarian energy deals with is that eccentricity, as well as communal living. It's highly centered around, a collective, a group, around friends. And so the themes that we saw as Saturn transited through Aquarius that might be coming back up as a result is where we're starting to ask ourselves those questions about, why can't the majority of us work remotely? Why can't I live with roommates, into later years? What's wrong with that? Why can't I have a platonic life partner instead of getting married? Why can't I, why can't I reduce, the amount that I own, or, reduce my living space in order to take back some of my time, and enjoy my life more? Things like that, things that we were all, when we were in lockdown, things that we were all forced to ask ourselves and to reckon with. We're going to be working with that more over the next 20 years. So expect that. And again, to fight, but then favor that. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this transit, you do see more people living, I don't want to say an alternative lifestyle because that has connotations, but you do see more people embracing a more eccentric identity, embracing living in a different way. The kind of standard status quo of what it means to check all the boxes, and have a life well lived is going to be changing. The energy is going to push for change, right? Excuse me. Excuse me. So don't be surprised if that ends up coming up. These are really big themes. Another really big theme that's going to be coming up with Pluto transiting through Aquarius is that our relationship to technology is going to be under a microscope. And we're already starting to see this with greater usages of AI. We're now having to have, it's pushing for conversations about ethics in spaces, ethics in digital spaces in general, which is not new. We've been talking about this for a while, but specifically with AI, and it's going to ask us to start contemplating greater, questions about greater, consciousness, right? What is consciousness? What does it mean? How do we ethically wield technology that could be sentient? Like, we're going to have to ask those questions. Where does your identity and like a digital creation begin? These are going to be big questions that we got to ask. So don't be surprised if we're having to start asking big questions and making big changes to our digital spaces in order to accommodate this growth, in order to accommodate these shifts and these changes. I also wouldn't be surprised if at a collective level, there is a push to utilize digital spaces more. So like example, remote work, and take back power in that regard, as well as make certain digital spaces more equitable. So that's going to be something more accessible for all. Again, more equitable. Digital nomads will probably be on the rise. So that is kind of something that I am seeing. I'm making sure I got everything here. Once again, there's going to be a big push to align with your truest self and the people who are going to accept you as that self, and who you do your spiritual work with. You have shared values, shared weirdness. And like I said in the beginning, the takeaway here is your greatest path to your personal power is going to be through your authenticity, right? Your strength is in your genuine beliefs and your genuine soul self. So in those moments where you're experiencing some of these themes and there's fear and there's difficult emotions that, have to, did you hear that? That was a good one, that come up. Remember that you embracing and being proud of and really illuminating your path through your authentic light, that's going to be the greatest, that's going to be the greatest path forward. That's going to be the best way forward. So just remember that. Okay, all the serious stuff aside, we now have one I'm really excited about, which is going to be Jupiter in Gemini. So Jupiter is going to move into Gemini May 25th. It will experience a kind of a briefish retrograde toward the end of the year. It will go retrograde, October 19th, 2024, and it will be retrograde until February 4th, 2025. And I want to set the tone for what this transit is by sharing some other pieces of information. So number one is that 2024 is a year that numerologically reduces down to an 8. This is a number of abundance. This is a number having to do with manifestation, balance between spirit and matter, connection to source, all those good things. And I say this because Jupiter is the benefic planet, so it is associated with our abundance and our opportunities to achieve more abundance. And remember that abundance, while it does talk about money, is not always, always referring to money. So keep that in mind. The second point to kind of set the tone for this is that there is no Venus retrograde this year. We always think about Venus as associated with, the ruler of love and relationships, partnership, as well as, creativity. Excuse my burp. And those are true. But Venus also rules money, finances, and business. Excuse my burp. And so, I think retrogrades can be a little intimidating for people. But usually, retrogrades are just when things slow down, things, turn inward. And the goal here is to reevaluate something, to get a fresh perspective on something, to take a pause and kind of take stock of where you are, as well as to finish up unfinished business. So without a retrograde, this is indicating that there's a steady move forward in all Venus-related matters, business and finances being one of them. So there's a big energy of abundance consistently moving forward. Now, Jupiter has been in Taurus and will remain in Taurus till the end of May, like we talked about. And this is a time, I think about Jupiter as the benefic planet, unlike Saturn, where it's very austere and you have to work really, really hard to learn the lesson, right? There's no cutting corners, but the rewards are very long lasting and they're worthwhile. Jupiter is kind of like, I would say Jupiter is like Oprah on her favorite things show. Like, you get a blessing, you get an opportunity, you get abundance. But it is kind of easy come, easy go, right? There's a sense, if the tarot, the Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter's energy. There's a sense where an opportunity is dropped in your lap and you just take it, right? It's also an amplifying energy because it's, like I said, it's a benefic planet. So whatever you put into that Jupiter energy will be amplified. And it helps you also gain, kind of go higher, right? Ascend, get a higher perspective, build farther, get more attention, whatever it might be. Which is almost antithetical to Taurus energy. That's very slow and steady, wins the race, methodical. We do A, then B, then C, and that's how we reach success. And I'm loving Taurus energy. I struggled with that aspect of it for a while, but I'm really starting to enjoy that about Taurus energy. There is appreciation in the growth process. There's confidence built in the step-by-step. So Jupiter moving through Taurus, again, seemingly antithetical energies to one another, has been a time where the path to abundance is slow and steady. It's consistent, it's grounded, it's, I have a vision, I have a plan, I'm going to do this and this and this. And while the rewards are not quite as, while the rewards and the opportunities might not be quite as they're not as flashy, they're not as sexy, they're not always, as intense, they're consistent, right? There is progress forward. You can see the needle move. One thing leads to an opportunity for the next thing. And there is growth that way. There's also a sense of prioritizing the physical world, prioritizing creativity, prioritizing aesthetic. All of these things kind of covered Jupiter moving through Taurus. So this is where we've been, and this is kind of where we're going to still be until May. Now, when Jupiter moves into Gemini, as with, we talked about with Aquarius, look at where Gemini falls in your chart, and this should give you an idea of where there's going to be an expansion, right? An abundance of opportunities. It's noteworthy that Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so again, slow and steady. Whereas Gemini is a mutable air sign. So what you're going to see first and foremost is the energy pickup, hardcore. If you feel like when it comes to your abundance, you've been kind of just taking baby steps, or it's yeah, things are moving forward, but it's, it's a steady drip, but it's not like I'm doing, this, I'm doing that. And I would like to see more returns for it, right? I want to I'm ready to pop off here. That's going to happen for many. As Jupiter is moving through Gemini. Again, the energy is going to pick up significantly. There are going to be brand new ideas. This is, Gemini is a very mental energy, a very mentally agile energy. So there's going to be brand new ideas that will bring old projects or old ideas to life. A fresh perspective is going to be coming in. So if you had something where it's I'm just not inspired, or I got this far with it, and then I just kind of, I'm not sure what to do next. Don't be surprised if this transit brings forward a lot of new ideas where you're oh, you know what? I could actually do that. There might be something where you're pushed to re-release projects, re-release content, because Gemini also kind of deals with digital space. It's a lot about social media, the connections that we make, etc. So you might re-release something or do an updated version of a video, and it's much more popular this time around. This is a time to go viral. This is going to be a time where your ideas are going to be your ideas will lead to more expansion, more abundance. Again, any sign that Jupiter's moving through, that's the energy, that's the energetic path to things taking off, things being amplified, things growing, right? Boom, 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 boom. That's kind of the vibe. So don't be surprised if that kind of happens. That's something that you can expect. Again, there's innovative insights into what will bring abundance and what won't. Gemini is, like I said, mentally agile because it's the twins. So don't be surprised if you also have a 180 shift, a perspective where you're oh, I don't know why I was trying to do it this way when I actually should be shooting for this market, or I should be using this platform. I should be doing this. Trust those instincts, trust those ideas. Those are going to be incredibly beneficial for you throughout the period of this transit. So trust that for sure. This is also going to be a fortuitous time for networking and to attract investors. Something that I say a lot right now about Jupiter and Taurus is many of us are in a resource gathering period. Let that happen, right? Again, slow, steady progression. Let that happen. So this might be a time where you're reaching out to people, you're kind of making connections, but not a lot is coming out of it. So let's say if you're I want to collaborate with somebody, things might be kind of moving slow. So maybe you're talking back and forth, or you're planning out for the future. I have a straight hair and it's driving me bonkers. You're planning things out for the future, but nothing major happens, right? You maybe do like a little bit of like a video or like a stream or something like that, but nothing super duper takes off. You're connecting with a coworker about a project, or about like wanting to like present something maybe to like your boss or something like that. And it's like not a lot comes out of it, right? Projects get delayed, put on the back burner. It's like, it's better for another time. This gonna be that time, especially about anything having to do with communication or an idea, anything in digital media space, or social media space, digital space, there we go. Or like I said, presentations, communication. So any presentations you have to put on, yeah, that's gonna be great. Like I said, any networking opportunities, don't be surprised if Jupiter moves into Gemini and all of a sudden people are blowing you up, right? Those people are getting back to you. Yeah, I have time to do this now. Like, yeah, this would be a great time for, I've got this opportunity. Do you want to help me with it? Don't be surprised if that's coming up for you. Very, very heavily. So this is why I'm telling everybody, like, plan out, especially if you do anything in social media space, plan out your content now. Excuse me. Start making those connections now. Gather your resources now. Slow and steady wins the race. You're creating a strong foundation because that energy is just going to take the F off here. So it's going to be a pretty fortuitous time for that. This is also a time where you're being really advised to be open to new ideas, advice, and constructive criticism, which I know can be a little bit challenging, but there's extra luck in communication, and B, like I said, these new ideas might breathe life into something that ends up bringing you quite a lot of abundance. So be open to doing things differently, be open to different interpretations, like I said, constructive criticism. Oh, sorry, I pulled some rib muscles coughing and like that really, really hurt. Whoo, I felt that one. Ooh. So yes, be open to that because that's going to be, like I said, a fortuitous path forward. So I'm really excited about that transit because it's good. Okay, so the last one I want to talk about is the lunar eclipse in Pisces that will be happening September 17th, 2024. Excuse me. I ask that you bear with me on this one because there's a little bit of explanation with other astrological events. But it's important, and I'll explain why. So in general, full moons are always a time of release, but they usually go from lunar phase to lunar phase, except for eclipses. So eclipse energy can play out anytime over the following 6 months, meaning that this lunar eclipse in Pisces we're going to have September 17th, the energy from that, which I'll describe momentarily, can play out anytime between September and like mid-March of 2025. So there's that, first and foremost. This is going to be a time where this talks about a major cycle completion. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, so there's a big old wrap up here. Big emotional and spiritual endings and release and closure that will, again, play out or carry on anytime over the next 6 months. So just in and of itself, that's a big deal. There's a BFD. Excuse me. But it's also so important because of the other astrological information and data that's going on. So as we talked about, Saturn is moving through Pisces right now, as well as Neptune. Neptune has been in Pisces for, oh my gosh, I think Neptune's been in Pisces since it's either 2011 or 2012. It's been a minute, because Neptune also has an exceedingly long transit time. And so these two together in Pisces is really talking about a push to deal with what we have been avoiding or to dispel illusion. Again, this will play out wherever Pisces is in your chart for you. So if you have, for example, Pisces in the 7th house, this would be in relationships. If you have Pisces in the 11th house, this could be about your spiritual, purpose or your friends. If you got it in the 4th house, it's about your family. I go on and on. Excuse me. So this is really a time because both Neptune and Saturn will leave Pisces in 2026. So this is going to be a time where we're really pushed to kind of like over the next couple years, any kind of activity in Pisces, we're really going to be pushed to be dealing with these significant wrap-ups to end this cycle before both planets transit into Aries. So because of that, this full moon eclipse in and of itself has kind of a lot of potent energy behind it. It's going to be a powerful time to release, like I said, illusion, but also addictive cycles, and to restore balance and health. So if there's like a bad habit you've been looking to quit, manifest that shit. Like if there is something where, even if it's like not, a traditional addiction, but it's like, I don't like the relationship I have with XYZ, that's going to be a really great time to use that lunar energy to support releasing it. And if you guys want like a video about that, I talk about this a lot, especially on my TikTok, but I started my sobriety journey back in August of 2022. It's going very well. But one of the things I think is so important to talk about, which I'm going to be kind of making more videos about in general, and again, I'm happy to talk about at length, is for me, like, it was really about, I didn't have like a rock bottom moment. That's not what pushed me to like, decide I'm all done with alcohol. But I didn't like the relationship I was developing with it. And I talk about that at length as well, is that we think about, addiction or addictive cycles as like the end of the road, full blown manifestation. But there's a lot of little things along the way that might be unhealthy or might steal our peace, our happiness, our stability. And we kind of don't realize it because we don't conceptualize it as a problem until it's, problem in capital letters with a capital P. That rhymes. No, I'm just kidding. Theater nerd, ex-theater nerd. So, again, if you guys want like kind of like a separate video series on YouTube about my thoughts on that matter and about how that kind of plays out, I'm happy to talk about it. I, in fact, won't shut the hell up about it in my regular life. But this is going to be a powerful full moon to release things that, again, might not be end of the road, big capital letters problems or addictions, but just things where you don't like the relationship you have with it, right? You don't like, God, I have these little hairs that keep getting stuck in my glasses. It's driving me mad. You don't like, how it, the power it might have over you. You don't like the power, or excuse me, the way it plays out in your life. This is going to be a really, really powerful full moon to be manifesting a release of that. And again, I think any full moon in Pisces, any lunar activity in Pisces until 2026 is going to be powerful to do that work. But this is just one of them. And where it's an eclipse, this is beautiful. We love that. And the reason why it's going to be super duper important is because where the nodes are. So right now, the lunar nodes, they moved, the North Node moved into, not Aquarius, Aries, there we go. And the South Node into Libra, July 17th, I believe, of 2023. And they're going to be there for the rest of the year. But January 11th, 2025, they will shift, and this will put the North Node in Pisces. So remember we talked about how, eclipse energy goes from lunar phase, or not lunar phase to lunar phase for 6 months. So in this situation, this energy can be playing out and be something you're working with from mid-September to mid-March. The shift of the lunar nodes is going to be during that time, right? So the North Node will shift into Pisces. And this will be encouraging us to kind of use the momentum and the cleanse energy to nurture ourselves, right? So we're releasing, we're, getting clarity, we're starting to get a handle on, things that have been kind of eluding us, right? That have been making it hard for us to move forward, as well as things that we keep going back to even when they're unhealthy. So there's that release with that eclipse energy, and then the nodal shift. And like I said, to use that cleansed energy, that clean slate, that kind of breath of fresh air, right? Where we're freeing ourselves from our addictions or our unhealthy patterns, using that extra energy to nurture ourselves, our creativity, connect deeply with our intuition, and be able to empathize better with ourselves and others. So this is going to be themes that play out while the North Node is in Pisces. God, there we go. It's stuck. And so setting the intentions for that work at the full moon eclipse is only going to support that nodal shift for you. And where the nodes are in each, sign pairings for 18 months, doesn't hurt, right? If you like doing ritual work, especially full moon ritual work, and you want to kind of set yourself up for success, could not hurt. And as a result, I wanted to, this is a pretty kind of quick wrap up here, but I would say because of all of this, the signs that are going to be receiving the most activity, and my caveat here that I put in the beginning with a little asterisk, is that excuse me, when I say the signs that will be receiving the most kind of energetic activity, apply these to where these fall in your chart. This isn't like, oh, if you don't have these in your big three, there's nothing going on. I really am a firm believer that like the signs that are in your houses are there for a reason. And so there's activity going on within those signs, meaning there's activity within your houses, right? The way to kind of like, that I kind of think about it is like, imagine a house and the kitchen is empty, but there's people in, their respective rooms or in the living room. You wouldn't say it's an empty house, right? You'd say like, that's an empty room, which I know that's confusing because I'm house system, houses, things like that, right? So just because there's like stuff going on in other places, even if it's not with your, in your big three, or other like major placements like a north node. So that being said, I would say the signs that are receiving the most activity would be Gemini, Pisces, Aquarius, and also Aries and Libra. Because the nodes are there, there are also a series of eclipses that will be happening along the Aries Libra axis. So wherever these fall in your chart, that's where there's going to be kind of some activity, respectively in terms of the magnitude of the transit itself. So apply that as you see fit. So this is our video all about the big transits for the year ahead. I love talking about astrological content with you guys. If you guys want more stuff like this, or a, maybe like month ahead astrological forecast, pardon my itchy nose, please let me know. I am open to taking content suggestions. I love to hear from you guys. But yeah, this is really, really fun. And like I said, if you are interested in going over how this is going to impact you personally based on your own personal astrology, I do offer those guidance sessions, and I will remember to link them below. As always, it is an honor and a joy to get to connect with each and every one of you today. I really appreciate your time. I'm wishing you a happy, healthy, prosperous year ahead, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.